So the next step I did was export the document from ChatGPT into a Microsoft Word doc. And then I went over here to Confluence and I imported it into Confluence using this 3 buttons, opened up this menu, templates/import, and then I imported it as a Word doc here. I tried exporting this as a plain text using Control-Shift-V and other resources. I just wasn't able to do it. So to me, this came out the cleanest. I still have to go through and clean out, like the bullet points came in as dashes and some things like that. So I'll go through and edit it as I continue to refine the product. And I also want to try out Confluence's tools for writing requirements with AI. I'm pretty set on using Confluence because of my experiences with writing requirements. Even though I've been on teams that move pretty fast, I think it's still important to document and have a living document of the systems documentation. I know you can have release notes in GitHub, and that's great, but in terms of documenting the business case as to why the changes were made, I think Confluence is still the best solution. So I've been on teams where there was one microservice written for the web front end and a totally different set of microservices written for the mobile app. And I wouldn't do it that way, but that was the choice that was made. And over time, you lose certain context as to potentially your billing is working 2 different ways, as well as there's one-off use cases of these types of customers get billed this type of way and these types of contract customers get billed this other type of way. And if you don't document this and are aware of the risk of what's going on, you can get 6 months down the road and you're not capturing all the revenue accurately because the billing is working differently on like web and mobile. It's just a complicated mess. And I've seen that happen over time and time again. I think it's just good to have that document and also where it ties the business decisions that were made from leadership about the changes that they want and then which release that was in. So then you can go back and see, yeah, that's in the release notes and you can go back and see those features. But having that long document of this is how the system actually works really helps, and when the changes were made, and then more context around the why and the business case for that. Another thing that I think I would do with this PRD, even though ChatGPT generated requirements, I don't know that all the requirements are valid. As an early stage startup or founder, I think it's good to go back and validate the feature requirements. There's requirements that I added here with screen time limits. I don't know that that's necessarily like a V1 feature because I think you can add that feature if parents request it, but I don't know that I would put that in a V1. I'm pretty aware of how much screen time my kid gets, but if I'm on a call or she's sick, it just ends up being what it ends up being. So it's a barrier that doesn't necessarily need to be there unless it is validated. You could A/B test as a product feature with different user groups, or you can ask and survey users before you validate that as a requirement. It's really getting out a good set and a core of what is the MVP functionality and then what will be in V1 is also great to refine, and you can document that in Confluence as you go along. And you can rank features and move them up and down. I've used other tools other than the Atlassian suite for road mapping, such as Monday.com and Smartsheet, and I think those are great tools to use. But in terms of creating a living, breathing system document of what decisions were made by the business, what business rules are captured. So there's the user flow, but then there's also the system flow of how the system makes decisions in the background, and then capturing that and documenting that is also great to do in a place like Confluence and Central Repository. So for me, it's one of my favorite tools. I've also used SharePoint to this. I'm not sure what other tools will act as your systems documentation. I mean, I know you have smarter release notes in GitHub, but to me, Confluence is still a must-have for managing a product end-to-end.